Thank you. As I'm going along my path and developing and expanding, I've come upon something that I'm contemplating right now. Things have been really manifesting and coming up, and they feel really good. But I've noticed that things are slowing down. So I'm starting to really look at that. And I'm following my thoughts. And I'm finding that
Well, we just want to say, we want to hear everything you want to say, but the reason things slow down is not because you take your attention off of them. That's not what causes things to slow down. It's only the introduction of contradictory thought to it that slows it down. That was big. Can you take that home with you? My creations don't slow down because I've taken my attention away from them, because the vortex is full of them and the cooperative components are there, and law of attraction is bringing it about, and my inner being's all over it too. So it's not slowing down because I need to give more attention to it and drag it along in a better way. It's slowing down because I'm thinking contradictory thoughts about it, period.
Okay.
Well, that's good to know. That's good to know, because the tendency is to think, oh, I need to work harder at this. And often the working harder at it is the effort factor that is slowing it down. Because think about it. I've got to get after this. What you're saying is, I don't trust the universe and its natural evolution. That's like stomping on the ground. Come out, corn. Come out. Come out. It's not coming out. It's not coming out. All right, I'll stay here all night.
Okay. Well, and another part of that is that I find I'm watching my thoughts, and I have paths of thoughts that aren't feeling great. They're reliving past situations
we were
with
just
family
talking
members.
about that.
And so I'm thinking that those thoughts aren't
Now, did you hear-
allowing me.
Yeah, exactly.
In the allowing mode.
We got it all figured out.
And then that's so.
So did you hear us earlier say that people spend 90% of their time thinking, instead of 90% of their time allowing? What we want you to contemplate is the difference between a thought I've received and a thought that I'm working to death. Here's an easy way to do this. When you think about what you want and why, usually you're in a more allowing state where you can receive more. But when you're thinking about what I want and where it's going to come from and when it's going to come and who's going to bring it and how it's going to get there and who's going to bring it and when it's going to get there and where it's going to come from and why it isn't here yet, and then those thoughts are slowing it down. Too much thought. You see, there are so many of you who have been very precise in your creation. You believe, and rightfully so, in moving things from one place to another. There are plenty of things that you can do with your action and with your words that you can see as productive, until you get somebody in your life that just doesn't respond to your harping. You know, I've told you 15 times to do that. Why isn't it done? That's a clue. That's a clue. Harping doesn't get the trash taken out. You know that if you've got teenagers. So you can beat them down so that they'll be like robots and do anything that you harp about, but that's not meaningful life for you or for them. And so you want to start, we're using this word in a very strong way. You want to stop harping at yourself. Stop demanding and efforting and start trusting the process a little bit. I've been asking. I know that it's in progress. I believe that my inner being is on it. I've come to believe that I'm worthy of it. And now my singular intention is to meditate every day for 15 minutes so that I have a few seconds of potentially receiving a thought. And when I do, if it's blissful and strong, I'm going to follow it. But we really would like you to think a little bit. Most of your impulses to act are not coming from that reception of that thought. It's from some other reception of some other thought. Esther's been really asking of herself, because quite often she'll get an impulse to do something, like the impulse to fire someone. Now think about it. That person is toast. I've just had it. That impulse to fire someone. Do you think that comes from this receptive mode or from this receptive mode? You see what we're getting at? Now that's a strong example, but so you put on your clothes, they don't fit right, they don't look good, and so suddenly you have an impulse to run 5 miles every day. Where did that impulse come from? Did it come from source? Did it come from the receiving mode, or did it come from really being unhappy with where I am and deciding that once and for all I'm finally going to do something about it? This is the distinction that we want you to feel the difference of, because as humans, you have a tendency to act more from your awareness of what you don't want. You look around and you find a problem, and then you wrestle that problem to the ground and you kill it. And as soon as it's dead, there's 5 more just like it. Because your attention to it doesn't get rid of it. Your attention to it causes it to multiply. This seems odd in an action-based world, and an action-based world is the world you currently live in. We're wanting you to shift your action-based world to a vibrationally aware world. So rather than acting on things, which usually comes from your awareness of what you don't want, we would like you to cool your jets and wait for the inspiration that is truly tuned to the solution. Because every subject is 2 subjects, wanted or solution, and unwanted or problem. Every subject is that way. And so you just got to ask yourself, where's this impulse coming from? What thoughts have I been thinking? What momentum of energy am I following? And most humans are following the momentum of trying to fix a problem. That's what makes you run out of steam. That's what makes you get tired. That's what makes you feel confused. That's what makes you feel defeated. Esther heard a song on the radio. She likes to listen to Pulse and Blend and some of those XM stations. They have a lot of different music. And there was a song about how everything is just so heavy. It's so heavy to pick everything up. And Esther thought, that's a depressed person right there. In other words, when you're depressed or discouraged or grieving, everything's heavy. Everything's hard. Oh, I think I'll eat my breakfast, but the spoon is so heavy. Everything is so heavy because you're not utilizing the resources of the energy of the world. The non-physical energy is buoyant, you see. So it's just about making that distinction a little more every day.
So how do we train ourselves? Right now, I'm watching my thoughts.
For a while, we called this the science of deliberate creation, and then a lot of you were watching your thoughts too much. So that's when we began calling it the art of allowing, because when you say, I'm not going to think about that, you're thinking about it. You're thinking about that thing you're not going to think about, and law of attraction is bringing you more thoughts about that thing you're not going to think about until you can't not think about that thing. In fact, it's just about all you can think about. And so you need some way of breaking the momentum of what you're thinking about. If you catch yourself early in the morning, the momentum is far less. It's not about changing that thought. It's about thinking another thought. It's about giving more airtime, more focus time to what you do want and less to what you don't want. If you could think about thoughts and beliefs and momentum, can you see how they all go together? A thought and a belief and momentum and law of attraction. Those are all the same conversation, aren't they? So if I think that and speak about it, then law of attraction is going to bring me more, and there's going to be momentum. And the more momentum there is, the stronger belief is, and the more difficult it is to let go of it, even if it's a detrimental belief. So when you say, well, I'm going to get rid of all of this belief, we say, no, you're not, because you're focused upon the thing you're trying to get rid of, and you can't get rid of the thing that you're focused on that you're trying to get rid of. Law of attraction will not let you do that. Nor can you jump to the total other end of the stick. That's just asking the impossible. It's not because your brain is weak. It's because law of attraction is strong. You can't stop thinking that and start thinking that. It's too much. But in the contrast that you've lived, when you knew what you didn't want, you put what you did want in your vortex. So there is a point of attraction that is working for you that you're just not that tuned into yet. But when you meditate, you're tuned into it for a minute. And when you meditate again, you're tuned into it. And when you meditate again, you're tuned into it until after a little while, 3 or 4 days or 4 or 5 weeks, sometimes it takes a little while, you'll start receiving a thought because you've allowed yourself the space to receive it. That's why we're encouraging you to just reach for a thought that is more satisfying rather than going for broke and trying to get all the way there.
Mm-hmm. I see.
There is an effort factor that happens with so many well-meaning humans. And it comes from your exposure to life where you see unwanted things that you want to change, and then you sort of dig in to want to change them. And the harder you try, the worse it gets, and the worse it gets, the harder you try, and the harder you try, the worse it gets, until you finally get to a place where you just give up because it's so confusing, so convoluted. And we say that's a good place to get to, because when you finally give up, you're not giving up your desire, you're giving up your futile effort. We want effort to not be a friend of the community. Effort will get you mediocrity. Effort will help you move things from place to place. Effort matters, but inspired action is what you're reaching for. And so you've heard a lot from us. So we're just going to break this down because your question was very poignant and a lot of people hold the same question. So we're just going to speak just the high points of what we've talked about here. Stop trying so hard. Give yourself a break more often. Stop taking score of where you are and how you're doing so much, which means stop trying to see yourself through the eyes of others who don't really understand. And just for a little while, let what really matters to you be how satisfied you feel moment by moment. And we're not kidding. It won't be more than a week or two that you'll be moving through a segment of life and you'll realize you're feeling satisfied. Your walks will be more satisfying. Conversations will be more satisfying. People you're interacting with will be more satisfying. Your dreams will be more satisfying. Your moment-to-moment experiences will be more satisfying. And really, isn't that the key to happily ever after? Satisfied, 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 satisfied. And you have to accept that in this continuing ongoing life that you're living, that you're just going to keep putting more in the vortex that's going to be coming down the pipeline. So there's always going to be more in the state of manifestation. There's going to be more coming down the pipeline. Well, if you need it to have all come down the pipeline and all have manifested before you give yourself a break and say I have succeeded, you're not ever going to be there, because it's not ever going to all get there, because you're not ever going to stop exploring and asking for more, for an amendment. That's what puts the eternalness in eternity. And so you just got to give up needing it to be done before you give yourself a break. You got to give yourself a break now, and not by saying, oh, I've tried so hard, I must be virtuous in some way. That's not what we mean at all. You've got to stop trying, because you are not the energy factor. The energy factor is the source factor. You're not the momentum factor. Law of attraction is the momentum factor. You are the focus factor. That's all you are. You're the focusing factor, and you can focus on what is less satisfying or more satisfying. And once you get that, you'll feel like the most blessed person on the planet. It will feel to you like there's a concierge in the sky just moving ahead of you, just making sure everything's just right for you. Just making sure that everything's just right for you. Yeah. Enough?
Yes.
Really good.
Thank you very much.
Really good.